Anyway, this is Craig with Element Technologies. I am the VP of Security and Compliance, and what I want to talk about briefly today is cybersecurity, where it stands, and what we're seeing with the advent of COVID and this dispersion of employees and staff into work from home environments. At Element, when we got the stay-at-home order in Minnesota, it took place, I believe, early March. We worked with thousands of employees to move them to their houses. Some companies were very well prepared. They had NetDocuments, they had multi-factor authentication, they may have had VDI. They were well prepared to move their employees anywhere. Some others were woefully unprepared, and security really took a backseat to functionality, which unfortunately it had to. Businesses had to stay up and running, and it was very challenging. So what I want to do is, now that we've been in this for a while, I want to talk about where we're at in cybersecurity, and hopefully for some of you, give you a sense of perspective of where you need to be. For others, you're going to feel better about where you're at. So with that being said, go here. I'm going to talk about how we need a change of perspective. So with cybercrime, especially now with people working at home, we need to recognize that cybercrime is extremely low risk. It's not like other crimes out there, frankly. If I were to go to Cody with his nice, beautiful, new long hair and say, hey, dude, let's grab some stocking caps and let's rob a bank, Cody's probably going to say no, and he's going to say no for a couple of reasons. He's going to say no because morally, that's wrong. We don't rob banks. He may say no because he doesn't need the money. He may say no for the reason a lot of people really fall on, and that's because we're going to get caught. And so because of that, people don't do things like that. We live in this first world mentality. But if I were to go to Cody and say, Cody, I've got a great email phishing scheme, I know it works, and I've worked with another hacker. We made $1 million in a week, and I have followed hackers that made $1 million in a week on a scam, and there's no chance of getting caught. Cody may say yes. Hopefully he wouldn't, but there's a chance. Now, I mentioned how cybercrime is highly profitable. The reason for that is the advent of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. It was about 10 years ago that came onto the scene. Prior to that, cybercrime was really limited to corporate espionage, stealing information and selling it, but more often just destroying networks or proving that you could get on them. And now it's become big business. The cybercrime tools are readily available. I'm actually going to demonstrate a live hack here in just a couple minutes with tools that any of you could download right off the internet perfectly legally today. And if you didn't know how to use them, you could go on YouTube and watch videos and get up to speed pretty quickly. The next thing, and this is really true, especially for law firms, is that people and organizations are overly generous with their information online and on social media. So what happens as an attorney, as a law firm, you have to brag about how great your attorneys are, how great your staff is, the cases, the civics works they've done, the community work. A bad actor can take that and turn it against the firm. They can exploit weaknesses in attorneys. They can hone in on certain areas that they know that they're focused on and make it seem very compelling. Next, we need to stop shaming victims of cybercrime. We do need to remember crime is still a crime. Once again, we'll pick on Cody. If Cody gets back from a baseball game the next day, walks into NetDocs and says, yeah, I was mugged on my way back to the car. Nobody's going to shame him and say, I can't believe you parked in that spot, Cody, you deserve that. But with cybercrime, we do that, and especially people in the IT community do that. We see the commercials in the movies where somebody clicks on something and they're hiding in shame in their cubicle. The problem is when victims expect to be shamed, they don't say anything. And with the cases that I've worked, I can tell you, if we know about a wire fraud the minute it happens or within 24 hours of it happening, we may be able to get the money back. If we know about a ransomware attack, when somebody clicks on the malicious link on Friday night and goes, something seems wrong, we may be able to stop that before hundreds of servers are infected by Monday morning. So time is really of the essence. So with that, I'm going to talk about how passwords are the weakest link in the chain, and I'm going to give us a live demo here. And so, can you, for those of you on the call, can you see the terminal session, just to confirm?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, thank you. Otherwise, this demo is not very interesting if it's just me typing and you're hearing clicking noises. Okay, there we go. So what I have is I have a live virtual machine out in actually Microsoft Azure that we have our security tools on. This is freely available on the internet to buy these tools. But the one I'm going to demonstrate is called the Social Engineering Toolkit. And so social engineering is the idea of manipulating people into giving up information. So we'll get that loaded up. There it is. And this has hundreds of different attacks that we can do. I'm going to demonstrate one that we see pretty often. So I'm going to do a social engineering attack. I'm going to attack a website. And then I'm going to do what's called credential harvesting. This is where we fake a website in order to trick somebody into giving up their username and password. Finally, I'm going to do what's called a site cloner. So I'm not a web developer. I can't make websites on my own. But with this tool, all I need to do is put in a website of a website I know. We're going to pick on Twitter because they've had a number of issues lately. And I'm going to hit enter on this. Now, I'm picking on Twitter. This works with any website on the internet that requires a username and password. This could be Office 365. This could be NetDocs or iManage or any of your DMS systems out there. This is not a flaw in their security. It's the nature of the internet is that we ask for usernames and passwords. Now, as an attacker, now that I've got this going, there's something I have to do, and that's I've got to trick somebody into going to my new website. So what I do is I create an email like this, and I love this email because everybody likes Ryan Reynolds. So this comes from somebody that you actually know. Check out this tweet by Ryan Reynolds. Love this guy. Normal end users, what is the first thing we always tell them? Make sure the URL is legit. So they go and they go, yep, this was really forwarded from Twitter. Yep, this looks fine. Okay. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to see what this is all about. Now, this pops up. Now, this is important to mention at this point. I did not build this website. In the time you saw me start the hack, it cloned it in the background. For the eagle eye out there, you'll notice this is twitter-secure.com. It's not really Twitter, but can we expect end users to catch this each and every time? So what happens is, put in my username. I put in my really good password here. And as an end user, I log in. And what happened? I went to Twitter. Okay, I move on with my day. That wasn't that interesting, was it? Now look at this. In the background, my tool has just captured the username and the password of the user logging into this. Now, as I said, I could try to manipulate and get people to give up their NetDocuments passwords, their bank account passwords, that sort of thing. But it's easier to go after Netflix or Twitter or something like that because people tend not to pay attention, but they tend to use the same passwords for everything. So now that I have this information for a user, I can go and start attacking their site. And I'll say last summer I worked on a case, cost the company about $5 million in lost revenue because a user had the same PayPal password as they did for their corporate network password, and it was found in exactly this way. So while I have this here, I want to talk about one solution we can do to fix that, and then I'll talk about a couple other steps. And I think this is pretty important and pretty neat. Whenever you start talking about improving security, especially the law firm, you get pushback from attorneys. And so I'm at NetDocuments right now, and I want to show you our secure solution at Element, how we log in securely. And let me know, pay attention, this is going to go pretty quick, but do you think your attorneys would be okay with this? They go to NetDocs, we're in the US, we're going to click on US, okay? That was it, I'm in. And you may be asking, well, where's the username, where's the password? We worked with a company called WatchGuard to use their AuthPoint solution, which is a multi-factor authentication solution I've got on my phone here. And what happens is the first thing every morning, I log into any of a dozen different sites that we have protected by AuthPoint. And now that it's protected on there, when I go to any of the other sites, they already know that I have been authenticated, my phone has been verified, and I can go in with a single click, no more usernames and passwords, basically for the rest of the day. And this really does work flawlessly. And the amazing part about it is the threat is limited to people that have the phone and have Face ID. In order to break this, you would actually need to have my physical phone and scan my face in order to get in first thing in the morning. So we've eliminated the Russian hackers, the Nigerian hackers, any bad actor that's trying to break into NetDocs at Element, because they would actually need this phone and there's no authentication. So keep that in mind as you consider solutions. Let me get back to my presentation here. Go from the current slide and talk about a couple other things that we can do here. So I just show you what multi-factor authentication can do. It's a combination of something you know, something you are, or something you have. In this case for Element, the thing we have is our phones. And when we have our phone and we securely log in, it takes care of most, if not all, of our authentications for the entire day. It's an absolute godsend when you're working with end users. The next thing is if you do have multi-factor authentication enabled, you can disable your password expiration policy. And the reason for this is when we require users to change their passwords every 60 days, every 90 days, that sort of thing, we start seeing patterns. Summer 17 becomes winter 17, becomes spring 18. If we get an old password, we can guess what the new one is. With multi-factor authentication, even if a password is compromised, the system isn't compromised, and the security standards out there nowadays dictate to get rid of the password expiration policy. In addition, once we don't have a password expiration policy, we can start requiring unique complex passwords. Right now, if you were to go to your firm and say, we're going to require 12-character passwords for everything, you would probably have a revolt. But if you said, we're going to require 12-character passwords, we're going to teach you how to create those, and that same 12-character password you have is going to work until you want to change it, there's much less of an issue. The next thing you see there is storing your password securely. We have to get away from the Post-it notes and the password.xls file that's sitting on networks, because those are too easily found. Finding a solution, LastPass, Dashlane, there's a number of them out there. Really do focus on a good one, but get your firm and your employees used to storing their password securely. And then, as you heard me mention earlier, encouraging employees not to reuse work passwords on personal accounts. Sometimes you can't prevent this because you don't know what they're doing, but this should be part of your employee handbook and part of your security awareness training is keep your passwords separate from each other so that when they make the mistake and have their PayPal account compromised, your firm isn't compromised. And the final note I have here is test your help desk to ensure that they're not violating your password reset policy. One of the things that we've seen is that, especially working with law firms, realty, that sort of thing, is the late night caller, the managing partner saying, I've got to get this brief in right now, my password's not working, give it to me now. Usually they're really blunt, they're really angry, and you've got a junior help desk guy that's working after hours that's intimidated, goes, okay, I'll give you that password. Your firm needs to have a policy that only certain people are allowed to authorize password resets, and you have to have a mechanism for validating that that person is who they say they are. Now, once again, going back to our AuthPoint solution, something we can do on that that's pretty amazing is if that managing partner calls in and says, I need my password changed right now, and we're not sure they are who they say they are, we can actually reach out through AuthPoint to their phone and say, I believe I'm talking with so-and-so, please click yes to confirm. And if we don't get that positive response back, then we know that it's a bad actor. Also, the person, if they get it and they're not talking with us, will click no, and we know there's a bad actor. So we have this great method of actually validating 24/7 that we are talking to staff without calling our primary contact at 2 in the morning and waking them up. So there's some great solutions out there for those of you that are simply relying on a username and a password right now. It's time to change, and we can help you do that. And that's what I have. Thank you.